All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is that time once again. This is your boy Bernie here on The Charge, giving the latest NBA news and rumors and also basketball opinions. And for you guys out there that celebrate the Christmas spirit, I want to wish you guys a happy Merry Christmas. Hopefully everything's going well. I know we've been going through some turbulent times right now. I know that this isn't necessarily the way that a lot of us would like to spend the holidays, especially, you want to be around your loved ones. But I hope you guys are making the best of it. And just kind of hoping everything's going well for you. But guys, we're here to talk some NBA news and rumors and basketball opinions. And my boy Brad will be on here in a little bit in the Discord, so we'll discuss with him what he thought about the games yesterday. But there was a lot of interesting storylines that came out of these last 2 days. Obviously, with NBA opening night, the game being postponed for the Thunder and the Rockets. There's a lot of stuff to talk about as it pertains to what is going to be going on in the NBA. But before we do that, guys, like I said, we are here on The Charge, giving the latest NBA news and rumors and basketball opinions. And if you guys wouldn't mind, hit that like button. Also remember to hit that subscribe button if you're new to make sure you don't miss our NBA daily content. We're here Monday through Friday. We'll be live on Christmas Eve, or Christmas Day, I should say, around the Mavericks-Lakers game. I kind of want to watch that game with you guys. So if you guys are interested in watching that game with me, tune in then and we'll watch that with us. But also, guys, remember to hit that subscribe button. That's the most important thing to me. I appreciate the amount of subscribers that we just recently got. I really appreciate everybody that's doing that, but we are not done just yet. We still need that magic 1,000 number. So if you guys know anybody that's interested in NBA content or NBA news and rumors, send them over this way and let them have a discussion and debate with me. I'd love to talk NBA news and rumors and basketball opinions with anybody in the chat. So if you guys are interested, join the community, join the charge, and let us know what you guys think about the NBA games, your NBA team, and what's going to be going on. Before we talk about the games, I'm probably going to go on a little tangent and a little bit of a rant. But before we do that, also, guys, there is a donation link if you guys are inclined to do so. The donations go to the channel. They improve the equipment, like this microphone here. Thanks to a generous donation by somebody. That's how we were able to get this new microphone. Kind of like the one that Joe Rogan gets to use and stuff like that. So, I really appreciate that and appreciate anybody that is in the chat or anybody that is in here talking some basketball news and rumors with me, and that likes to donate. But again, donations are not mandatory. They're optional. I'm not forcing you guys to donate, but what I would appreciate is a subscribe button and a like, so that way more people can watch this NBA content and I can share kind of what I think about basketball and what other people think about basketball, because I want to make this a community. But enough about the self-promotion of The Charge. We are going to start off with a little bit of a rant before my boy Brad comes in here. So this morning, Christmas Eve, the Kobe Bryant sixes, the Procho sixes they call it the green apple colorway, but it's originally the Grinch, right? Because Kobe wore those on Christmas Day games, and that's what he would play in. What I find frustrating about this is just the fact that it is such a... I just hate the sneaker community sometimes, because what really frustrates me is that it was such a hard release. I had 4 or 5, I think I had almost like 10 devices ready to go. I had Dick's Sporting Goods up, I had Foot Locker, I had Sneakers app, and I still was not able to get the shoe. I understand that it's a rare, limited shoe, but the problem is that I know that there's some of those people that buy the shoe that almost treat it like it's stock, right? You treat these shoes as if they're people that, buy the shoes as like they're trying to sell something to you, or they're trying to do something like that. An hour before the release was out, the shoe ended up costing about, I think it was like $300, almost $400. And like after the release, it cost like $500, $600. So, the release number is just kind of frustrating to me, in my opinion, because I think that what frustrates me more about this stuff is that, like, I think there's a lot of people that would just love to play in those shoes. And they're $180. I know Vanessa Bryant kind of talked about, hopefully, Nike's going to make it right and do other stuff like that. But, it is frustrating because not only that, you have Foot Locker releasing like their kind of Kobe Procho 5s out there, in limited stock and supply, and then that's gone. You also had the Mamba Edition jersey also released today again, and that also sold out as well. You had Kobe Bryant's both purple and gold statement jerseys, or icon jerseys, whatever you want to call those jerseys. Those also sold out. So, there's a huge market for the resale, and it's just frustrating. I think what frustrates me more about it is that, like, I know that there's legitimate Kobe fans. I'm a huge Kobe fan, but I love the Grinch colorway. That was always my favorite shoe when it released, and I always wanted to grab a pair. But like when I saw the prices, it's just like way too much for a basketball shoe that I want to play in. It's not a shoe that like I want to keep on and hold on to it forever. It's one of those shoes that I want to play in. So it is frustrating that that's kind of the case, but you know what? It is what it is at this point. So we're just gonna have to deal with that. But yeah, I just think that's kind of been the most probably the downside of today for me at least. And I know there's a lot of things that you could that are a lot worse. I have a pair of Kobe's. I'm not complaining. I'm not whining about it, but it would be nice if they were to release those shoes, in a little bit more quantity. I understand that COVID, maybe the factories aren't as open, but at the same time, what it is frustrating. I would say, like, you want these shoes. These are probably, for Kobe fans, this is probably one of the holy grails. Ooh, if I just cracked my neck, because those shoes they're rare. Not rare in terms of like well they are rare because they're used shoes are just obviously less expensive, but more so it's like those shoes that you want to wear, you want to play in, you want to feel good, play good, and unfortunately that just wasn't the case. But it is what it is. There's obviously worse things that could happen, and I'm not trying to make small note of that. But we're here to talk some NBA news and rumors, and as we kind of wait for Brad to join us here on the charge, I kind of want to make kind of talk about one game that we watched yesterday for a little bit, maybe a little bit of halftime, was just the LaMelo Ball Cleveland Cavaliers game. I think what it goes to show you is that you never want to overhype somebody. You never want to get in a situation where like you say like this guy could be the next superstar. But I think LaMelo Ball definitely is gonna. I think he's gonna go in the same trajectory path as his brother Lonzo in terms of he'll have a struggling first year. Kind of work out the weakness and getting stronger, getting bigger, working on the jump shot. Because now we see like we'll talk about the Pelicans game a little bit later, but Lonzo looked like he LaMelo looked like he struggled a lot yesterday. Did not score a single point, had 3 assists, and only played 16 minutes. I think what it kind of goes to also show you is that like I feel like the Hornets should have traded that pick away if they know if they're so guard heavy. It's actually ridiculous. You got PJ Washington, you got Devontae Graham, you got many of these other players, you got Terry Rozier, you got Gordon Hayward. Like you have so many guards on your team that it doesn't make any sense to me why you would want to add another guard to your team. LaMelo Ball is a great player. I think he can be a really good player for whatever team he plays for, but when you already have type of the playmakers that the Hornets do, it's kind of like he probably should have been drafted by a different team, and I think he would have been a lot better off for it. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. But I do enjoy what's going on here. I do enjoy it. I think LaMelo is going to get a lot better. I think he's going to get a lot stronger. But at the end of the day, we do need to see a little bit more of the. We need to see more LaMelo Ball stepping up. But, like I said, I'm not too expecting because I think Terry Rozier went off, 16 minutes for LaMelo. When you draft from 3rd overall, you're expecting that 3rd overall pick to kind of play the game and kind of be in the game, but he just wasn't. So that's a little concerning to me. But, let me know in the comment section down below. Am I overreacting? Am I acting appropriately? Like I said, this is going to be a very interesting scenario as it pertains to what's going to be going on. Because I think what is frustrating, like I said, is because I think LaMelo is going to be a great player. I think he's going to be better than Lonzo, but I think he's going to be on the same trajectory, that same path as his older brother Lonzo, because I think LaMelo right now is kind of like when Lonzo came to the league, he was skinny, he was lanky, and his jump shot was very inconsistent. And I think the same thing is happening with LaMelo. He's very skinny, he's lanky, but his shot is very inconsistent, right? I would say the preseason games kind of showed that, right? The first game he had didn't score a bucket. Second game he had went, scored some decent points. Then his third game he got a lot better and scored a lot more points. But in 16 minutes, I don't think it's enough time for any player, to be honest with you. Even, well, maybe I should say any player, but definitely a player of his caliber, of like a rookie trying to prove himself in the league. That's just not enough time, 16 minutes, to really do something. Anthony Edwards played really well yesterday. Due to the fact that he is the 3rd option. Even then, I mean, LaMelo is not really not even the 3rd option on the team. He's like maybe 4th or 5th. But I would like to see some improvement as it pertains to LaMelo getting better, getting stronger, because that's really his bread and butter and how he's going to get better in this league. But anyway, guys, that is just kind of my opinion on the Lonzo Ball, the LaMelo Ball Cleveland game, which is it's a tough one, I would say, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. I think that the thing about it, guys, is that like I agree that like LaMelo needs to play a lot better, But I think he's a rookie. You just need to give him time, and I just think that he needs to grow and develop. I just haven't seen that yet from LaMelo Ball. Like he's kind of reminding me of like the trajectory his brother's gone down. So, at the end of the day, it is what it is. But we'll find out in the near future what's going to be going on in that scenario. And I believe Brad just joined us in the live chat. Let me just make sure that he's with us in just a second. I'll have him talk in just a minute. But yeah, I want you guys to kind of sound off in the comment section. What do you guys think of yesterday's games? Were there any games that surprised you? Were there any games that kind of threw you off guard? That's kind of what I want to know in the comment section down below. Oops, let me unmute myself in the Discord. Brad, are you there?
What's up, B?
What's up? How you doing, man?
I'm chilling. How you doing?
Not too bad. We gotta talk some NBA basketball, man.
Yes, sir. Got a bunch of games tomorrow. I'm ready.
Yep. Talk about that and talk about even yesterday's games. I mean, Brad, yesterday, we had some pretty. I mean, obviously, the NBA opening season, best present you could ever get as a basketball fan. Uh, what game stood out? Like, let's kind of go over like your list, like even opening night, if you want to go back to opening night. Like, what stood out to you in these last or we'll go over a lot of these games. Or what game to you stood out as something that was like, dang, okay.
Yeah. Okay. I got a couple games for that. First one would be on opening night, Warriors versus Nets. It stood out to me in a bad way, just because the Warriors are a lot. I mean, I expected them to be pretty like not as good, kind of
Mm-hmm. Right.
middle level team, but they look a lot worse than I thought they would, and I probably attribute that to just their horrific bench. Like their bench is straight up terrible. It's Steph Curry, Kelly Oubre, and then Wiseman, who's a rookie, and the rest are all just G leaguers. Like all those dudes
Dang.
don't play in the G League.
Dang. Even Andrew Wiggins.
Even Andrew Wiggins, get him the fuck out of here, bro. I don't know what he's doing. He looked horrific on opening night. I'm Bob Myers is a terrible GM. He should have traded him last year when his value was a little higher. Now after this game, and we'll see how the season goes. Obviously, he's going to get his touches, his points, his stats because he's a
Mm-hmm.
max player and he gets a bunch of minutes. But his value is definitely declining, and I just don't understand how they didn't trade him last summer. And
Yeah.
then another game I saw. Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I was gonna kind of piggyback on what you said, man. Like the Warriors just like absolutely terrible. I kind of in my predictions I had them as like an 8 seed. Could make a little bit of noise, but like when I watch that bench, man, it is absolutely probably the worst bench in NBA. Like I don't think
Yeah,
there's a worse. Like even the Cavaliers have a better bench than what they have. And so do the Detroit Pistons and even the New York Knicks. Like maybe the
the
Knicks and the
Bulls.
Warriors are competing for the
I
worst
think the
bench in the
Bulls are
league.
right there.
But it's just like what disappointed me yet about that game especially is that like Kelly Oubre, I think it's going to take a little bit more time for him to adjust. Kind of
Hmm.
being the second guy now. In Phoenix, he was kind of like the third option on the team, not really like looked at as like in the scouting report and stuff like that. So I think he, give him a little bit of time, he'll perform. But Andrew Wiggins, man, you just can't rely on him to give like obviously there was the sound delay between the basket and what was it? It was between the basket and the person shooting, and you could already hear the bricks happening as soon as he released the ball.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The audio. Yeah, it was hilarious. Oh my. He missed
But
so many wide open shots. Like it's year whatever for him, year 10 or something. Not year
is
10.
he?
It's year
Oh,
like 7 or
yeah. Let's see here. Let's see Wiggins in the league. How many years has
because
Wiggins
he
played?
he got drafted in 2014. I'm pretty sure. So it's year 7.
Yeah, so he got drafted in 2014. He's it's a long time, right? He's been in the league for a minute
Yeah.
now. It's time. It's time that
And
you hit the open shots, man.
for real, wide open threes, you got to knock those down.
We have here as well that, according to NBC Sports, I have this article right here. Wiggins concedes he needs to be better, says it's fixable. I
He's
don't know
been
if that
saying
jump
that for years.
I don't know if that jumper's fixable, man.
Yeah, he's been saying he needs to be better for years and that he can do better for years. I don't see it. I think all hope is lost on him. As soon as his contract is up, he's going to start getting like. I honestly think even Harrison Barnes is better than him. I wanted to say he'd get Harrison Barnes contracts, but that man got paid out twice.
Yeah, I mean, like I was thinking in my head, like when I was doing my preseason predictions, and this is just goes to show you that it's fool's gold with Andrew Wiggins. I thought he could really
Hmm.
fit in with that like Harrison Barnes role for the Warriors, where like he can. But I realized like his shooting is not as good as Harrison Barnes. But like I thought, maybe if everybody's kind of distracted with Curry, with Oubre, and just like with all the action going on, we saw Wiggins get multiple opportunities in that offense to get open jumpers and open looks, but he just couldn't convert on any of those. And it was just one of those
Hmm.
things where it's like, at what point, this is kind of what made me upset when it comes to like Andrew Wiggins when he was in Minnesota. The same thing with Karl Anthony Towns as well. It's just like I feel like they like the perks of being in the league, not necessarily working on their game. Because like you said, he's been saying this for years now. Oh, I'm gonna work on it. I'm gonna try and fix it. And then turns out it's the same game every year. So are you lying to us, or are you actually working on your game? And if you are working on your game, you need to fire that trainer.
He definitely needs to fire whoever his trainer is. I feel like I don't want to say he's lying because it's he's trying, but it's just whatever he's doing isn't working. I saw he put on some size, which is good. It's been about it's about 5 years too late for him to put on size, but okay, he did that. But the IQ isn't there. Like, does he not watch film? He takes the worst shots. He'll pass up a nice wide open three to take a long contested two, or he defensive
Mm-hmm.
lapses, not hedging on screens, help. Like, it's just what's going on here, man? I don't get it. He's like the definition of mid. NBA standards, when you think of mid, it's literally Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah, man, it's disappointing. So I guess kind of going on the flip side of that and talking about the Nets, like what did you make of the Nets? Or do you think that they're contenders for being in the finals, or do you think that we're still on a wait and see with that team?
I think we're definitely on a wait and see. If I'm anybody who is, not a Nets bandwagon fan, you can look at that Warriors team and say, all right, they're terrible, and they were missing Draymond, who is by far their best defender, um, who I think would have helped in that game. They still would have lost, but it would have softened the blow a lot. They wouldn't have been down 40 whatever they were earlier. Um, but I'm excited at the same time just to see KD and Kyrie get on the floor, show some chemistry, see what the team looks like. They look good. They're hitting shots. They look like they like playing with each other. Uh, the defense is suspect, but we'll see what they look like when they play a real team.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you completely 100%. It's like I think that the Nets, they have a solid roster. They look good. But the thing that scares me about them a little bit is just the inconsistency I felt like with the second unit. Like I think that like Harris LeVert is going to be a great player, but it's just like the rest of that crew is like, are they going to still perform like they normally do? That's kind of like my biggest question mark for the Nets. And it's like one of those things. Like, do you trade away that depth on the bench to get James Harden, who's rumored to be traded there, or do you trade those things to get another superstar? Like, what do you think about that, Brad?
Yeah, I think honestly they gotta. If I'm gonna package some of the pieces they have, like Jared Allen, Karis LeVert, and Dinwiddie for a star, it wouldn't be James Harden, just because what does he add to your team? You can say, oh, James Harden, the name, but specifically he adds what shooting and passing, which you already have with Kyrie and KD and Joe Harris, and like you have your James Harden like filler. They do what he does. So if you add James Harden to that, all you're going to do is take away touches from Kyrie and KD. It's not really going to be cohesive basketball. They need defenders. They desperately need defenders. I actually think Tarion Prince should start for the Nets. I don't know what kind of lineup they're rolling. Steve Nash has no idea what he's doing, rolling out a lineup with KD, Kyrie, Spencer Dinwiddie, Joe Harris. Like, bro, that's food. If you play a real NBA team, they're going to kill you. Um, DeAndre Jordan is the best defender in that lineup, and all he can do is rim protect. So
Mm-hmm.
they desperately need perimeter defense, and I think Steve Nash is going to have to shake up that lineup a little bit as the season continues. Um, but he's also figuring it out too, since it's his first year coaching. I would say the Nets are like at best Eastern Conference Finals. I don't see them making a finals.
Eastern Conference Finals. Okay. We got Supreme Gamer in the chat. How you doing, man? He said Victor Oladipo to the Nets works well. What do you think about that? Do you think they should make a trade? Do you think the Pacers would want too much for Victor Oladipo, or do you think that that's even a viable trade?
I think Victor Oladipo to the Nets would work well. Yeah, I mean, he fits what they need. He gives you defense. He can score. He can play off the ball pretty well. It just depends on how healthy he is. Really, he looked good for the Nets or for the Pacers yesterday, but they were playing the Knicks. So as the season goes on, see how he looks. Maybe keep an eye on him, and then pull the trigger if you can, trust his health and trust that he's at least back to like 80%, 90% of All-Star Victor Oladipo.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like the biggest question mark I think is like defensively they're going to be a liability. I mean Kevin Durant, he looked good in his first game, but like at the same time he's still still trying to get back into like that basketball playing shape because he did miss a lot of jumpers. I felt like, and so that'll come back to him. That'll come through time. Kyrie Irving played pretty well, but I think that's just Kyrie Irving's gimmick, right? I mean Kyrie Irving is never going to be a number one. He's always going to be a number two because I believe like even in Cleveland, like before LeBron even came there, like he was just struggling with finding teammates. Maybe not finding teammates, but more so like because he is the number one guy, he's on the smaller end of players. Like that's why you need those big, those taller, stronger players on your team. Or maybe Kevin Durant is not stronger than Kyrie, but in terms of just like in there to like, work the load. Like Kevin Durant can go, 48 minutes and play his basketball and his style for here on out. But with Kyrie Irving, I felt like, when his legs get tired and everything happens like that, he just can't carry, not to like carry, though, I guess like he can't carry a team is what I'm trying to say. So, I think at the end of the day, what we will see is consistently how this team mentally is going to do together, because that to me is the biggest question mark as to why. And I kind of want to get your predictions as from 1 through 10, Brad, on it, because, obviously the playing games, and just kind of get your predictions on both the East and the Western Conference. The thing with that is that when it comes to the Nets, like, are they mentally going to stay locked in? That to me is the biggest question mark for them, because we know how Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant were. I mean, we even saw Kevin Durant in the interview with Charles Barkley. It was just like, it was just like, mentally already you could see that there like it's some issue. Like, I don't know what Kevin Durant's issue was with Charles Barkley. I don't know if Charles Barkley's called him out before.
I think, no, I mean, he probably has called him out at some point, or said something, but I think they're doing it on purpose. It's like their shtick. As the Nets, since they're backing up Kyrie, they're just gonna say fuck the media all season.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think, Brad? Do you think mentally they have the capacity to keep it going all season long?
No, not at all. That team's gonna crash and burn at some point. It's Kevin Durant and Kyrie. Someone's gonna say something on Twitter, and KD's gonna take offense and hop on there and start using his elite Twitter fingers to bro, KD, yo, if we ranking Twitter fingers, I put KD top 3 because nobody can say anything to him. He's Kevin Durant. Whatever he says on Twitter, you're going to have a bunch of Kevin Durant stands on your head if you say anything about this man. As a man, I would stay far away from on Twitter. But so you have that, and then you have Kyrie. Media can ask him like one bad question or something, and he's going to have a meltdown. And then just the team dynamic too. They played a crappy Warriors team, so they're all feeling good about themselves. And KD's finally back on the court. Kyrie's finally back on the court. But when they hit adversity, that's when they're gonna crash and burn.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I mean, I don't know, where do you have them ranked in the Eastern Conference? Do you have them top 4, top 2? Like, what's your ranking on them?
I got them top 3, maybe top 2. I don't see a lot of teams in the East better than them. Shoot, we saw the Bucks lose last night, so
yeah, we'll get to that game. We'll definitely get to that
game. I don't even top 2. They'll either be 1 or 2.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with you in that aspect. I think that this Nets team, like even with the headaches that they have with some of these players, it's just kind of one of those things where it's like with the Nets, like, I mean, I just think we've already said it, and I don't want to kind of go in a circle. At least for me, I don't want to keep going in that circle. But at the end of the day, the Nets mentally, can they keep up with it? That is going to be the biggest question mark. So if you guys are in the chat, Flamin' Hot Funyuns, how you doing, man? He asked, do you think the Suns are legit? We will get to that later in the stream. I don't know if you kind of want to transition to that game, or if there's another game that you want to go to before that.
We can hit that game if you want. I'm ready for it.
Alrighty. So, I mean, obviously the Phoenix Suns won the game yesterday. Luka Doncic still needs to lose that quarantine 15. It looks like he's gained about almost 20 pounds. He looked a
Oh,
little.
that boy was trudging up the court.
That's what I'm saying. He looked sluggish. He didn't look like, everybody's claiming him to be the next MVP of the league. I know me and my boy Pete, we're big Luka Doncic stands, but even as a stand, you could see that he's definitely not in basketball shape. Like he is definitely has to get back into he has to get rid of the quarantine 15. Um,
Hmm.
but on the flip side, the Phoenix Suns looked really legit. I know a lot of people were like, "Oh, Chris Paul, he's like almost 40 years old. How is he gonna, compete and get the Suns to the a playoff spot?" But we saw last night he makes a huge difference along with Devin Booker. Devin Booker was a little bit quieter than I would like, but at the same time, a steady dose of Chris Paul, Aiton, and that whole team. That team dynamic looks really good. So to kind of answer your question, Flaming Hot Onions, without going into more detail or kind of beating around the bush, they do look like a legit team.
Hmm. Hmm.
I mean, what
I
do you
would
make
say
of it,
they're a
Brad?
top. I would say they're a top 6 seed minimum. And
Mm-hmm.
if I want to go shoot for the moon, I'm gonna say they're a top 4 seed. I
Mm-hmm.
think they're a top 4 seed. I think that defense that they have is really elite. And I liked the game yesterday specifically because yeah, you said Devin Booker, didn't do what you were expecting really, and that's true. Towards the end, he was missing a lot of shots. He hit the most clutch one,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I saw him miss a couple wide open threes, a couple wide open middies. He missed a free throw. I was shocked by that. But it was good for the Suns because their two key guys that they're banking on carrying them through the season didn't really have the best games. Chris Paul kind of played atrocious, except for hitting that one big jumper over Maxi Kleber. Um, but it was the role guys that stepped up. Cameron Johnson came in and was a sniper like he always is, got to the line. Cameron Payne came in and gave good minutes. Shout out Cameron Payne. I've been telling people since last year, no more Cameron Payne slander. He's actually good. If you gave Andrew Wiggins Cameron Payne's basketball IQ, he would be a hell of a player.
Yeah. And then Brad, just kind of going back to the more of the Luka Doncic Dallas Mavericks. Is it like same old with them? Because like they always get in this position right where they're leading the game. It's back and forth. They get close in the game, but they just can't finish the game off the right way. Is this kind of like the trope of the Dallas Mavericks at this point? Like, they do so well in these quarters, and then all of a sudden it's like boom, they're just like they're so close, but then they fall short every single time. Like, do you think do you think we'll see that shtick, happen multiple times this season?
Yeah, probably just because it's the nature of their team. They're super young. They don't really have a vet like Chris Paul to get them in their spots and say, all right, like this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna close this game out and finish. Because they
Mm-hmm.
just ride on Luca. So and Luca kind of not even kind of he really wants to be the hero or a guy that puts them over the top, and he ends up just taking horrific shots or making horrific decisions in those clutch moments. We saw that all last year. Luca loves the
Mm-hmm.
hero ball. So that's why they can't really close out games because it's Luca facilitating everything, controlling everything, and then it's like, okay, Tim Hardaway's playing off him, Josh Richardson playing off him, Dwight Powell playing off. So they need a vet that can get them in those spots and get them to calm down and close out games. I think
Yeah,
Jalen Brunson could do that just because he's a smart player, but he doesn't really get a lot of minutes right now.
yeah, which is kind of crazy because I felt like there was a period in that time where I think the Dallas Mavericks were down by 10, but like with Brunson, he was able to kind of keep the game close and able to keep the game within a manageable distance to where the Dallas Mavericks
Mm-hmm.
could make a little bit of a run. And I think it's time that he does get a little bit more playing time because you see what he does like on the court. Like he provides a
Mm-hmm.
spark compared to some of these other guys that we see here in the game where it's like, what are we really getting from you?
Exactly. Yeah. He's he is like he plays like a vet. He has an old man's game. His IQ
Mm-hmm.
is super high. He's 6'1", 6'2", so he has to play smart, get the ball in the right positions, uh, take good shots. I really like Jalen Brunson's game, and he's been good for them in years past. But Rick Carlisle keeps stifling him for some reason. And then yesterday he proved again, like I deserve these minutes. So even though they lost, hopefully Jalen Brunson comes out on top from that. Trey Burke got he got some more playing time than him. I think it was like 5 more
Mm-hmm.
minutes than him. But really, all Trey Burke does is try and score and then play make after, whereas Jalen is controlling the whole game.
And what did you make of DeAndre Ayton? He kind of, I would say, like he kind of had a quieter game. I know he had 22 points, but my worry and concern about him for this last game was just the fact that I think he had less than 10 rebounds, which maybe I'm just kind of in that gimmick where it's like I need you to get like a lot more rebounds. Uh,
Hmm.
but it's just am I too worried about that, or do you think it's one of those things where he needs to because he got 8 rebounds and the leader was like nine, I think, with Jay Crowder. So I understand like the three ball is going to change the game a little bit because the ball like ricochets off the hoop a certain way. So like more guards are going to get more opportunities for those rebounds. But maybe I'm just a traditionalist in that sense, Brad. Like maybe am I being crazy about that, or do you think it's a legit concern?
Um, I wouldn't look too much into it just because he also didn't play a lot last night. He played 24 minutes, and
Mm-hmm.
they split the minutes pretty well. I think he got into some early foul trouble, like he always does. But
Yeah.
I would say I'm looking for Aiton to have like another breakout season this year, or at least take a step forward.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I am a little down on him this year just because from what I saw in preseason and this past game yesterday, he just doesn't make like the best decisions. He got in foul trouble early, and he's got to know I'm a main piece to this
Mm-hmm.
team. I have to stay on the court if I want to help the team, but he's always off the court because he's always in foul trouble. Sometimes he doesn't like make the best defensive reads, but he's gotten way better at that. He had 2 blocks and a steal last night. I think we'll see how he does as the season goes on.
Yeah, I mean, like 13 points, 8 rebounds, 1 assist last night, a PR of 18. So, like you said, definitely room for improvement with Aiden. I think that, I'm looking for, like, I think I had him in my prediction video a couple days ago, or prediction live stream, I should say. If you guys are interested, go and check that out. I had him as, like, one of my, most improved players of the year because I thought with the addition of Chris Paul and kind of what I've said time and time again, that I think the reason why they brought Chris Paul in was to see, like, can Aiden become a star? Can he like develop into like a perennial big man that we drafted him to be? And
Hmm.
so that to me is like one where it's still a wait and see for me, but you know, I think that he can become that. The thing is like you said, the IQ needs to go up just a little bit in my opinion because there's a couple times where I just looked at his jumper. I'm like, are you trying to bank it in or are you trying to swish it? Like I couldn't tell sometimes with the
Yeah.
little bit like further away from like 15 feet out. Like what his decision was on some of those jumpers.
Yeah, exactly. I do like that he's taking them like
Mm-hmm.
confidently, and he's gotten better at that. So his game is improving, but he just has to, really like lock in, knock those down.
Right.
I think he needs to be more aggressive, be more dominant. You were the number one pick. You have amazing basketball talent and athleticism. Just be more dominant.
Exactly. And we kind of move on to our next game that I wanted to talk about. Is this team on fraud watch? We're looking at fraud watch alert. Obviously, the Clippers are number one in there just because of last season. My next team is the Portland Trailblazers, man, losing 120 to 100. At one point, it was 83 to 55, if I'm not mistaken, like the second half. I mean, this Trailblazers team, which a lot of people predicted, Charles Barkley foolishly predicted them to win the West, which I don't know why you're wasting that much money on the Portland Trailblazers. But
Yeah.
what did you make of that game? And I know you watched it. It's just I don't know, man. I'm concerned about that team.
Surprise, surprise. You got to play defense to win basketball games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It really irks me honestly that in this era of 2020 basketball, it seems like a lot of fans and basketball watchers are forgetting that there's two sides to this game. They just see Damian Lillard drop 50, CJ's dropped 30. Oh, they got Covington who shoots threes and can kind of play some defense, and they just forget. People were excited they got Ennis Cantor back. I was like, hold up, y'all, he's literally the worst big man defender in the
Yep.
league. Why
I was
why were you guys
I was happy to get rid of
like,
him.
yeah, right? it doesn't make sense. He's a double-double machine, sure, but he can't guard anybody. He'll give you buckets and rebounds, but he cannot guard anyone. So I've been calling this about the Trailblazers for years. I'm sure you saw my tweets last night. I was going
Yep.
off when they were getting blown out because people have been foolishly putting them in places that they don't belong, saying, "Oh, they're fully healthy. They can, win." They got Melo off the bench. Like, okay, who's their best defender on this team right now? It's got to be like Covington, right? And he's not even a good man-to-man defender. He's good at help defense because he has a 7'2" wingspan. Um, yeah, it's been time to blow this up. It's been time for like the last 4 years. Trade CJ, start Gary Trent. Like if Neil Oshley or whatever his name is needs some help, I can be the GM for that goddamn team. Trade CJ. It's been time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've been kind of saying it for a couple years back now. Even when they were like in the top 4 seed, it's like, look, they've shown you from time and time again that both CJ and Lillard just like for whatever reason that tandem just doesn't work. And like, well, obviously we know it's defense, right? Their defense is
Hmm.
just absolutely god awful. It's atrocious, and
And
you
they
know
both need the ball on
exactly.
offense.
Exactly. CJ McCollum, I feel like is although he's a number two, I feel like he's a number two that needs the ball in his hands. He's a playmaker. He needs the ball in his hands more than being like a spot up guy. Um, you
Hmm.
know, Damian Lillard, same thing. He needs the ball in his hands to be a playmaker. That's the reason why he scored 59 in a couple of the games and why people kind of rated that Blazers team so high. I you do need that in the league, but I think like you said, like defensively, like where they're getting their defense from. Nurkic isn't the same player that he once was. Your wings like Covington, like you said, more of a help side defender than an actual like lockdown Tony Allen type of defender. Like you're not getting those type of lockdowns with both CJ and Dame. Like, you know, that's the one thing that I think if there was a glaring need, it's just a guard defend like a defending guard for the Blazers. Um,
Exactly.
it's not like the Utah Jazz or some crazy offensive juggernaut that can put up 120 every time. Quinn Snyder is more of like he's a defensive guy because obviously you signed what did you retweeted one of them, what was it, like the French uh a French baguette Bismack Biyombo or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Baguette Bismack Biombo.
Baguette Bismack Biyombo, like, he's not a guy that'll go off for points, but he got 20 and 17 last night, or yeah, no, 2 nights ago I should say. Or no, actually last night. I'm tripping right now, but it's just one of those things where it's like, you need to see these type of players step up, and defensively they're just not cutting it. And Rudy Gobert almost put up a 20-20 game against the Trailblazers, which obviously meant
And it
that
was easy.
Enes Kanter was doing Enes Kanter things. Like, we know Enes Kanter's game. It's not defense. He's in there for offense. I mean, we saw how much he got exposed last year in the playoffs, and that's the reason why Brad Stevens like barely played him in the playoffs.
And the year before too, when he was on the Blazers, he got exposed big time when they played the Warriors. Um, yeah, I was talking to my friend about this yesterday on Twitter actually because he tried to cap for the Blazers, talking about like, calm down, bro. They're not that bad. They have everybody back now, and I was like, fam, Derrick Jones Jr. starts for this team, and they're relying on him to be a lockdown wing defender. How many teams, how many playoff teams in the West do you think Derrick Jones Jr. would start on, Bernie?
Depending
I
on
don't
the
think
depending on the situation, maybe one, and that might be the Knicks. Well, actually, not even the Knicks. Like so really
in the
none.
West though. How many playoff teams in the West would he start for?
Oh, zero. Absolutely none.
None. That's what I'm saying. So like they're relying on Derrick Jones Jr. What wing defender? I just don't understand. He's not going to guard LeBron. He's not going to guard Kawhi. He's not going to. And if you have Rocco there, he's not. You're not getting Rocco's best help defense, which is steals. He's not a man-to-man lockdown defender. Teams have
Mm-hmm.
seen this before.
Right.
So yeah, Blazers GM honestly should be fired for the horrific additions he made to the team in Cantor and Derrick Jones and Rocco. The idea behind Rocco was good, but they're executing it poorly because they're using him as a man-to-man defender.
Yep.
Um, and for not trading CJ fucking 4 years ago when his value was the highest, because now he's 4 years older and it's not going to be good when they have to trade him.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I said this 4 years ago too. I said this even like, a little bit before when they were just kind of going into their own. I'm like, I like CJ. I think his game is good. I like Damian Lillard. I think his game is good, but they just don't work well together because they are the exact same players. Um,
Exactly.
and obviously Dame Lillard's a little bit better than Dame, or actually, to be honest with you, they're about. Well, no, let me not cap. They're both about the same. Maybe Dame Lillard a little bit better, but should the Celtics get Bismack Beyond? No, no, Supreme Gamer. No, 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 no. Bismack Biyombo is a bust, and should how we got like this Charlotte Hornets organization just likes giving out money. I think Michael Jordan is the most generous GM out of all of them. He gives money to
I will
people.
say, I will say, Bismack Biyombo is at least. I don't think the Celtics should get him, but he at least can guard big men.
That's very true.
He's 6'10" and like super strong and mobile too, so he can stay out there and guard guards or at least attempt to.
Yeah, but I don't know when you draft him at like what was he number 8, if I'm not
Whew.
mistaken, or something like that. Like he was like what? Let me see, Biyombo.
Also, he's Congolese, so I fuck with him. I gotta show support.
You know what? I agree.
Although I don't think he should be a starter on any team.
Let's see here. He was the 7th overall pick. Like when you're the 7th overall pick, I need you to score. Like it's just one of those things. Like Rudy Gobert was a late round draft pick for a reason, right? Because like scoring ability wise, like that's not his game. Like his game is more block shots. Be a defensive anchor, and there's a role for you on that. But like when you're like my top pick, when I know that I'm in the lottery for so many years in a row, obviously he was drafted by I believe. Oh no, he was drafted by the Charlotte Hornets. No, Sacramento Kings, and then traded to the Hornets. Like it's one of those things where I need you to score, especially with the way that those two franchises, that being the Hornets and the Sacramento Kings, just can't seem to get the right pieces around. It just like that. I mean, I'm going on a tangent about Bismack, which this isn't what we're talking about today. But
What year was he drafted?
2011. So
Whew.
I'm getting old. I don't remember when he was going into the league. What team he played for? Kansas? No.
Bismack, he
Uh,
came directly from Congo.
oh, so he didn't play on a team, did he? Like before that? I just don't think so. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just capping right now.
I don't think so. Looking.
Let's see here. Yeah, I'm just capping. He never played for. I think he played for. His
Yeah, he
team.
played for a team in Spain.
Yeah, which is there's another guy that kind of reminds me of, or maybe not reminds me, but there's another guy coming from like the Real Madrid academy that is getting talked about as like a top 10 pick. Maybe we'll get into that in a future video. But we got Flaming Off Onions. You said that the Jazz defense was very good. I mean, yeah, their defense is good. I think that, like I said, they're a solid defensive team. I mean, you can see that Quinn Snyder has that philosophy in them. But like the fact that the Trailblazers just basically left the freaking paint just open for them to attack is just the Jazz are good, but they're not that good. So I think that the Trailblazers, like Brad, do you think the Trailblazers make the playoffs this year?
They're a playing team at best. They're honestly just not. The year they went to the Western Conference Finals, that they were good. The reason they got that far was because they had some effing defense around Dame and CJ. They had Mo Harkless, who has started more than half the games he's played in his NBA career. He started like 70% of the games in his career because he is a really, really good defender. He's
Mm-hmm.
6'8" with a crazy wingspan and, can guard man to man. He's quick, he's athletic. And they also had Al Farouk Aminu, and he is a good defender, 6'8", super long, mobile. Like those two were their anchors. And they got rid of them, and they don't have anything close to that. They're a playing team, bro. They can't guard their shadows.
Damn,
Terrible.
I have
They're
to do a video with
garbage.
that.
I honestly, my eyes were bleeding watching that game. I had to tweet out, why would anybody want to watch the Portland Trailblazers? Like, this is just pitiful.
Yeah, exactly. I think they're kind of one of those teams that get your hopes up every year, like especially here on the West Coast where we live in Seattle. It's a 3-hour trip down low. It's just like, it's just it's not worth going to the games at that point. That it's just like you're gonna get swindled, you're gonna get hoodwinked by this Trailblazers team that you think every year like this is their year. It's Dame time, and then Dame time comes and goes. And
Mm-hmm.
they don't make the playoff, or they make the playoffs. They get bounced out in the first or second round, and then it's like, oh well, it is what it is. And then when they did get to the Western Conference Finals, they got their butts kicked every single year.
Hmm.
Even with Harkless. I mean, like, they
And that
had
was because and CJ, who can't guard anybody.
exactly. So we'll see what happens. Like, we'll see. Like, for the people in the chat and the live stream, and for the people that are watching after, do you guys think that CJ McCollum and Dame Lillard need to be traded? Or sorry, one of them needs to be traded. Who stays? Who goes? Let us know in the comment section down below. But Brad, let's move on to another game that I think was a little bit more interesting in terms of the way that the game went down. Actually, we got two games to talk about, but let's talk about the first one, the Kings and the Nuggets. The Sacramento Kings came away with the win off a tip in from Buddy Hield. Meanwhile, you got oh shoot, my mic stand fell. We got the Nuggets and the Kings with, like I said, a tip in from Buddy Hield. The Nuggets losing by 2. What did you make of the game, Brad?
That game was all over the place. um, Went to OT. It was a pretty exciting game. It started off slow for the Kings. I really thought the Nuggets had that on lock, but then they came back. They came storming back. De'Aaron Fox picked up his play a little bit. Harrison Barnes played not like Harrison Barnes. I was super surprised the Nuggets lost though. Jokic literally did everything in his power to carry that team. He had 29 points, 15 rebounds, 14 assists, 3 blocks. I shot 11 of 18. They should have won that game. Shout out to Buddy Hield though. That was a way to follow the basketball, because that's just a great play.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just adjusting my mic here, guys, so that's why I'm not on camera right now. But yeah, just kind of looking at the situation at hand, like, Buddy Hield played an amazing game. I mean, I know that he didn't do tremendously too well. Harrison Barnes played, like you said, a tremendous game, 21 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists. Jokic
Mhm.
basically almost had a 20-20-20 with his 29 points, 15 rebounds, and 14 assists. So they definitely should have came away with a win. A little bit disappointing that they didn't. But maybe Brad, you can kind of talk about like who you think in the like what's your top 8 in the West? Like, are the Nuggets a top 2, top 3 team, or do you think they're going to falter a little bit?
See, I after watching them in the playoffs last year, I'd like to say they're a top 2 team, but yeah, they're another year older. But I'm gonna say that the Clippers probably lock up the second seed just because they're super motivated, and the regular season is where Paul George shines. Um, but if they had to play the Nuggets again in the playoffs, I'd give that to the Nuggets. I'll say the Nuggets are the third seed because Jamal Murray is super streaky, um, and he's always been like that. I was kind of hoping like this season would be the season where he can find a good ground where he's um, consistently playing well or doing something or helping his team. And last night, he played 34 minutes, shot 1 of 9, and then if his shot isn't going, all of a sudden he's not doing anything. Only had 1 assist, 4 rebounds, he had 2 steals, 6 fouls. He fouled out. I just don't. Jamal Murray has got to be more consistent if the Nuggets want to be one of those top 2 teams. Um, Lakers number 1 seed for sure. Let's see. I'm gonna say Lakers 1, Clippers 2, Nuggets 3. I'm gonna give the 4 seed to my Suns because I really believe in their defense. I believe in D Book. I believe in Chris Paul. Um, 5th seed Jazz. They're always somewhere up there around there. 6th seed. I think the Mavs have that locked up. They were the 7th seed last year, and they're looking to be, better after another year. 7th seed Pelicans. Pelicans have a pretty solid team. Lonzo Ball looked good yesterday against the Raptors, pulling up threes in transition, hitting spot up threes. His form looks completely changed. If they can stay healthy, I'd give him about a 7th seed. Um, and I'll give the 8th seed to. I'm forgetting about the Rockets. Can we just omit the Rockets because they had the game postponed? I don't know
They
what that team is going to look like.
they they really should have forfeited the game. Like, I mean, like that's the thing. Like, I understand you want to postpone the game, you want to give them everybody an equal chance, but
Should have
they
been
were
forfeit.
they should have lost the game. Like, that should have been an automatic forfeit for them. They should have lost the game because there are some other players just weren't responsible. I'm not saying that, like, getting a haircut at your apartment is like necessarily like bad, but if you're not
Yeah.
social distancing, you're not wearing a mask. Like, I mean, obviously we don't
Yeah.
know like that situation, but like for more likely than not, when you're at your friend's apartment's place, you're kind of chilling with your friends. Like, I'm assuming you're not wearing a mask, and that's just me just being assumptuous. But also the James Harden situation that didn't help. Like, there's just a lot of things that are just kind of, for me, a red flag for the Houston Rockets, and I think they should have really forfeited that game. But that's just kind of my opinion on that.
I definitely agree. It should have been a forfeit for sure. Um, I know the Rockets will probably play somewhere in the playoffs just because they have a solid squad with John Wall, Boogie, and the vets that they have around them. But for now, I'm gonna give them the eighth seed just because I really don't care about the Rockets besides Boogie.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
That whole
it,
franchise, Steven Silas deserves better than what James Harden is giving him right now and what the rest of the team's giving him.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just kind of one of those things where I'm hoping that the Houston Rockets can, they should just trade James Harden away sooner rather than later, because you just don't want a disgruntled superstar on your team. You don't want to deal with the sort of pressure, and it kind of, hopefully you can give John Wall and Boogie Cousins, if you want to just, like, for this season, just kind of go at it, make sure that they have the right help around them so they can kind of get the best out of them, because I think Boogie, I'm expecting a bounce back year for him. Obviously missing the last couple years with some injuries and
Mm-hmm.
some unfortunate circumstances that happened in both the Pelicans and the Kings. You're hoping for a much better situation in Houston. So we'll see. James Harden has called it a toxic culture, so we'll see if that trend continues for them.
I'm pretty sure he created the toxic culture.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like, he created all this by himself. The Houston Rockets gave him everything. There's a report out about preferential treatment, about being late to practice. Like, I'm sure I think it was like almost the same as like Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, if I'm not mistaken. This is allegedly, by the way. So
Exactly.
I don't want to say that this is like real, this is factual, but allegedly that's kind of what went down in Houston. I mean, kind of the, Charles Barkley and Shaq and all them went at it, um, you know, about preferential treatment. I think Kenny the Jet Smith is kind of an apologist. But like, do you agree with like what do you agree with with the preferential treatment, like in circumstances, like obviously, like in certain instances, like, yes, they deserve everything, but at the same time, what concerns me is the like some of the stuff, like, able to cancel or be late to practice. That to me one irks me, and that's just me being a coach, so maybe that's just me like in a different mindset. But what do you think, Brad?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the superstars get preferential treatment just because they're superstars, but I think it's messed up that these guys can just show up late to practice, show up late to film. If you're in the NBA and you're a star, that's your job. You should be, and you're the leader since you're the star. You should be more committed to it than everybody else, showing a good example. Like Kobe would never do some shit like that. Um, LeBron wouldn't do some shit like that. I mean, there's probably like extenuating circumstances where it's different, but if it's like a habit, then that's not cool because you're setting a bad tone for your team. I think that question, I can't believe Chuck really just went out and asked Paul George that question. And then instead of just not saying anything or, dodging the question or just deflecting it, Paul George really just decided to say, yeah, stars get treatment, they get preferred treatment. And if some people don't like it or are offended by it, well, then, work harder or pay your dues or something like that. And that's just crazy to me. But Paul George really should have just deflected from that question instead of diving in about, oh yeah, I'm a star, I've earned it, and if anybody's offended by it, then they need to earn it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's gonna come back to bite him because he's gonna not perform in the playoffs again, and people are gonna be talking about, oh well, what's this about you being a star and earning your star preferential treatment? Like
Yep. It's just one of those things, Paul George, like I think I talked about it in a recent podcast or live stream. Like, it's just one of those things where, like, there's some things that you should say and that you shouldn't say. Like, for me, like, kind of still blaming or like still saying like, oh, my shoulder, I'm like 2 years removed from my shoulder. It's like, I mean, like, we
yeah,
need to stop using the
yeah,
shoulder as an excuse. Like, I know,
yeah,
like, at the beginning, I understand, you're recovering from it. It makes sense. But as it pertains to like just using it. I could say like, oh, like my toe injury from like 5 years ago, I'm still recovering from that. Like, at some point the excuses have to stop for Paul George. You played a great game against the Lakers. Congrats. This is kind of like their sort of championship ring, which is to spoil opening night for the Lakers. They're 2 for 2 now. It's just one of those things where it's just like, let your play do the talking. Stop trying to. I think that really, especially after what happened last year, after their debacle against the Nuggets, they really should just kind of be staying low, being humble, and just kind of working to get better. Like that's where I think that they need to start focusing on. And for whatever reason, they just seem to always be stuck on like, Doc Rivers, he didn't play me in the right position and all this other stuff, man.
Just Paul George. I feel the rest of the team kind of is staying low. Trez left.
Mm-hmm.
Kawhi never says anything. Marcus Morris is going to do Marcus Morris, but it's always Paul George who's just out here like, oh yeah, well yeah, I had my double shoulder surgery. I'm back in MVP form, guys. I'm back with my MVP trainer. Like Paul George thinks that the whole world thinks he's like, I don't know, super. Like he thinks he's almost Michael Jordan. The shit's crazy. Like, why are you lying to us? Like, we didn't see you shit the bed for the last 3 years in a row. Why are you lying to us about an MVP trainer and you being in MVP form when you weren't even ever seriously in MVP contention? You were just there to market. Like,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just one of those things. Like when I look at it and when I see it, it's like I need Paul George to stop capping, stop lying to the media, stop lying to us, and like kind of trying to hoodwink us when we all know that like, look, man, you're obviously a good player, you're talented, but there's just something mentally where it just blocks you from progressing in the playoffs. It just seems like there's something there, and then instead of saying like, yeah, it's on me, I have to like, he's a deflector. He's one of those guys that deflects blame, doesn't like to really take ownership of like when he messes up, he messes up. And that's
mm-hmm.
something that like he needs to learn and grow from. I mean, I don't know how this turned into like a Paul George life lesson story here, but I think that it is true that he does need to do that because obviously, he's like I said, he's a tremendous player. Like I don't deny his talent, but what I do not appreciate about him sometimes is that like he's very like I feel like like I said, he deflects too much to other things, like other outside influences, like whether it's, I don't want to take lightly of the mental health because obviously that's a huge thing for the NBA. But in terms of like social media stuff, like just like not handling the criticism well enough and just kind of like, blaming the shoulder injury, blaming Doc Rivers because he's not in the right position, even though basically Doc Rivers played him like Ray Allen, which, if you're not getting those Ray Allen type of touches, like that's kind of crazy because he played really well for Boston in 2008. So I mean, if you're not getting those same type of looks and if you're not taking advantage of it, it's like, you're not even on Ray Allen's level. Am
Yeah,
I crazy for
exactly.
that?
No, that's a fact. I don't even know why he was saying that. Like playing like Ray Allen is a bad thing. All he did was run around and get easy buckets. Why do you want post ups? You're skinny. Why is he talking to us about post ups? Who's Paul George going to post up? What the fuck? He just lying. He just capping, dog. We should move on. I could talk about Paul George slander for hours, bro. That man is garbage for real. Do not fuck with his game at all. His game looks smooth, but not with like his him as a person plus his game. He trash.
Yeah, exactly. And let's kind of move on to a team that Doc Rivers formerly coached, and that is, of course, the Boston Celtics. Last night they played on TNT live on Thursday, or actually, no, Wednesday, right? Yeah, played live on Wednesday. They played against the Bucks versus the Celtics. The Celtics come away with a 1-point win. Giannis not clutch at the free throw line. Jason Tatum thinks that he's the next superstar player after hitting a bank shot three. Brad, we know that this team that is being the Boston Celtics, obviously losing Kemba Walker for a month doesn't help. The Celtics did hold a commanding lead in the fourth, but then Giannis went Super Saiyan mode a little bit and just kind of ran out of juice as it pertained to the free throw. But what do you make of both games? Like, do you think that the Bucks are who they are and the Celtics are who they are, or do you think that there's some sort of growth from either of these teams?
There's definitely growth from both of them. Honestly, I mean, the Celtics are missing Kemba, and well, like we know he's a liability out there, and they actually were probably better off in this game without him, just because Drew Holiday couldn't expose him, and you
Mm-hmm.
know, but Chris Middleton couldn't expose him. The Bucks have a super tall lineup, but he makes that Celtics team run better, and he gets Tatum better looks just because he draws attention. We saw
Mm-hmm.
Tatum shot 12 of 28, and that's not going to win you a lot of games.
Right.
They're just lucky Giannis missed that free throw.
Yeah, I mean,
And I think the Bucks.
oh,
Oh,
sorry,
go ahead.
Brad. You go ahead, Brad.
I was going to say I think the Bucks just need a coaching change. To be honest, their top three, Middleton, Giannis, and Holiday, played really, really well yesterday. And in all aspects, honestly, passing, shooting, scoring efficiency, defense, they played well. They just got screwed over because their coach is putting their team in horrible positions, playing Pat Connaughton 23 minutes for no effing reason, bro. What is that? Why is Pat Connaughton playing 23 minutes on an NBA court? For what? I literally cannot think of what he does to deserve that. And Torrey Craig played no minutes. Why did you sign Torrey Craig? How does Torrey Craig go from being a contributor on the Nuggets, who made it to the second round of the playoffs, to not getting any minutes on the Bucks, who got eliminated in the first round of the playoffs and are in the weaker conference? It just, Torrey Craig, there was a stat. He was like in the top. He was in the 99th percentile for hardest people to guard, or hardest people guarded, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like him, Trevor Ariza, Isaac Bonga, Wesley Matthews. Those guys, day in and day out, they guard Kawhi, they guard LeBron, they guard DeMar DeRozan, they guard Giannis, they guard KD. So why do you have a guy like that on your team? Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are going crazy, and you're sticking Pat Connaughton on them instead of 6'7" Torrey Craig, who can also shoot. Mike Budenholzer is an idiot, straight up, and
Yeah,
he's holding that team back.
I think he's a great assistant coach. I think he would be like a great like kind of assistant on the bench, kind of get some like sets that he wants to run. But I do agree with you that his lineup that he had, Coddington and just kind of all this other situation that happened. Like I just think that he really should be a guy that should be replaced. You need to get like an experienced coach. Like Mike Budenholzer is kind of like he's like a lovable loser, right? A guy that can get so far, but then towards the end he kind of falters off and doesn't make it to the big game. I mean, we saw that with the Atlanta Hawks when they had what was it, their 60-win team, with all those guys like Kyle Korver,
All stars.
they're four all stars and they just didn't live up to it, and LeBron James took care of them just like that. So I think that he would be a great assistant coach, but I think they do need to look for a new coach. I agree with you on that, Brad. Like Mike Budenholzer, solid coach, but in terms of if you want to get a championship winning coach, I just don't think Mike Budenholzer is the guy for you. And you're gonna have to do something because I think that Giannis is gonna probably ask for it sooner rather than later.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I do want to talk about Giannis's mental lapse at the free throw line, but he shouldn't even have been put in that position. The Bucks are a much better team than with Drew Holiday and Torrey Craig and Bobby Portis added to their team.
Mm-hmm.
Than the Kemba Walker-less Celtics. That shit is incredible that they lost that game.
Yeah, I mean, like that's kind of I was thinking. I mean, like, for the Boston Celtics, like as much as I am a fan, as much as I love like what I saw from them, at the same time, the game-winning shot is again why I roll my eyes, why I put my head, why I put my hand to my face all the time is because Jason Tatum needs to understand. I know that Brad Stevens draws up better plays than what I saw last night. Like I did not like that out of timeout play that they ran, even though it got Jason Tatum an ISO look. Like I've seen Brad Stevens call way better plays, and I don't know what it is. Like I don't know if Jason Tatum's like, you know what, I need a play where I'm ISOing and I'm the only one that gets the ball. Like I just don't believe that Brad Stevens, after all the great out of bounds plays that I see him run these last couple of years, that was the best out of bounds play he could draw up. It's
No,
just
but that's what it's going to go to whenever Tatum gets his hands on it. It's just an ISO.
there's also times where I saw Jason Tatum in this game also not kick the ball ahead to his guys and just takes a freaking shot. Like he made the 3-point shot on a fast break, which obviously when it goes in it's well, but when it doesn't, it doesn't. And Jason Tatum didn't shoot particularly well last night. He was what 12 for 28, so definitely not very well. Jaylen Brown taking a lot more shots, which I think is kind of something I kind of want to see again and again. He was really good. He was decent at the 3-point line. 3 of 8. Jason Tatum 6 of 13. But there's a reason why Jason Tatum still at the end of all this still had a -6. And it's just like,
Yeah.
and I know that you shouldn't use that as like the metric as to who's gonna be like, or like to judge a player, but like at the same time, the sidestep three is the reason why we didn't advance to the NBA Finals. It's the reason why we didn't take that win in that first game with the Miami Heat, and it could have changed the whole dynamic of the scenario of what we're at right now, where it's like, can the Celtics win the big one? Like that's something that is still asked of the Boston Celtics, even though we're what this like year 3 or 4 of our rebuild. In terms of like adding the players that we need, like we're still asking for it. I'm still asking for that superstar because we do need one. And it looks
Hmm.
like James Harden has expanded his list to the Boston Celtics, but I don't want James Harden. I don't want him
Oh
I don't
God.
want him anywhere near my team because I just don't want that um, sort of camaraderie, or not even camaraderie. I just don't want his mentality to affect the other guys on the team. Like it's just I don't know. Am I being crazy about that?
No, you're definitely right. I wouldn't want James Harden anywhere near my team. I don't want him anywhere near my Sixers, anywhere near my Lakers, anywhere near my Suns. Keep him the fuck away.
Yeah,
He want to be
exactly.
Rick Ross, partying with strippers and like, bro, how do you? No, send him to the Cavs. That's where he deserves to go.
Send him the Cavs or send him to the
The
Knicks.
Knicks.
I think he would love the Knicks. I think he would love New York, even though New York is not on his list. I think from what I've seen, like the list of the places that he's going, do you notice that like I think those states that he's asking for are open? Do you notice that?
Oh
Or
my God, I have not noticed that. Wow.
I, I mean, let me look at his like James Harden's list. Like, because I'm pretty sure the places that he's asking for are places where like where the states are open, like to where like you can go to those establishments and have a little bit of fun, while also getting your buckets. And so I don't know. Like I said, I don't want him anywhere near Boston. Nowhere near it.
Yeah, definitely not Boston. I do want to shout out shout out Jason Tatum for that bank three because that was crazy. Um, but he kind of had no choice to take that sidestep just because he got stuck with Giannis on him. I mean, that was the right call from the Bucks putting Giannis on Tatum because he's going to want to take that last shot. And
Mm-hmm.
honestly, he saw that he had nowhere to go. Giannis is taller, longer, just as athletic. He wasn't going to be able to drive past him without just getting stuck. So he just took the shot he could get the most, space with, and that was the sidestep. And it was ugly, and it was a complete prayer and 1,000% luck that shit went in. Uh,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
honestly think
oh, sorry, Brad, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say I think as soon as he saw Giannis on him, like I know you're the guy, but you also have another guy on your team who's just like you. So I would have kicked that shit to Jaylen Brown and let him get busy, so you can probably get a better look. But he made the shot, so it's whatever. But if he misses it, it's a completely different story. Like you have, the defensive player of the year on you, kick that shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And it's just like the thing where like again, I've talked about this numerous amount of times. That type of shot is not going to win you basketball. It'll win you basketball games, but it's not going to win you many. Especially
Yeah,
with the way that he kind of like his percentages are at right now. It's like didn't really have a particularly great shooting night, and I just don't think that that's really the offense. That's not really what I think Brad Stevens has to do. And I think this is kind of a prove it year for Brad Stevens, in my opinion. I've sung his praises about his offense. I think his out of bounds plays, his timeouts, or like the plays out of bounds, and kind of like his sets are amazing. But what frustrates me more about him is that like he's not like a commander. He's not a leader of men. And that to me is where I need to see even Brad Stevens needs to prove that he is a leader of men and can handle those situations like what happened last in the bubble with Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown. And as much as I love Jason Tatum and I think he's a great player, I still need him to not take those type of shots because, or maybe not take those type of shots, but more so, work on different looks. Because I think that you could have gotten a better look on some other type of movement, and I think that he needs to set it up a little bit better.
yeah, I definitely agree. Could have got like some curl action or something, but
Yeah,
it worked out in the end. Just because
exactly.
Giannis. Oh yeah, on to Giannis's mental lapse at the free throw line, man. I don't understand that at all. By now, Giannis has to be making those. You can't be winning back-to-back MVPs and choking at the free throw line like that, man. You can't be one of 3 players to win Defensive Player of the Year and MVP and be choking at the free throw line like that. It's not. It just.
Exactly. Like he needs, like, especially as an MVP, someone that's trying to win another one this year, or at least trying to go for it again. He definitely needs to make sure that he's he needs to be clutch at the line, and he just wasn't last night. He got in those situations, like he almost airballed, I believe, the free throw. I mean, luckily it nicked the rim, but it was almost close to a whatchamacallit. It was almost close to an airball, and I just think that he needs to get better in those moments.
Yeah, definitely. Because if he gets in that moment in the playoffs, it's a wrap. I know the Celtics were rejoicing when they saw Giannis get the not rejoicing. They're like, ah, crap, he's at the line. He has a chance to tie it. But
Mm-hmm.
really, are you that worried? Because I saw him get fouled, and I was like, ah, crap, this shit might be over.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it is what it is at this point. I think that we'll see if Giannis can kind of step up this year. Obviously one game doesn't make the whole difference, or doesn't make the big change. But we'll see in the near future like what he can do. And Eoy, you said Merry Christmas Eve to all. Just got done with my last install. Gonna hang out with the family, enjoy games and time with everyone. Hope you enjoy your Christmas
Hey,
Eve, Eoy. Um, and kind of early Merry Christmas to you. And to you as well, Brad. I forgot to kind of say that before we started.
oh, thanks, bro. Merry Christmas Eve to you, bro, and to you,
Uh,
your whole family.
Facts, facts, facts. And it's the same as you. Another game that we can kind of talk about. I think that this would surprise many people here, and then we'll kind of get to tomorrow's games. Where was the game I wanted to talk about here? Let's talk about a little bit of LaMelo Ball. Obviously, there was a lot of hype around LaMelo Ball. We have someone in our friend group, I won't name any names just to keep it anonymous, Sajin, that decided that to keep LaMelo Ball, even though he only played 16 minutes, did not score a bucket, got 3 assists, and basically did not do very well in his first debut game. Brad, with the way that LaMelo Ball plays, with the way that everything's going, what did you make of yesterday's game with the young Ball brother?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I don't put really any of that on him. It's tough to expect a rookie to go in there and contribute right away, especially when he's not being put in a position to do so.
Mm-hmm.
The Hornets are complete idiots. When they drafted him, I was like, all right, I'm sure just like you were, why draft a point guard when you have Devontae
Yep.
Graham and Terry Rozier on your team? It doesn't make any sense. Um, so it's just like he needs to be able to play a lot and work through those kinks. It's not cool when you're a rookie, especially a highly like sought after, super popular rookie like LaMelo, and you go in, maybe you miss 2, 3 shots, and then you get yanked. It just messes with your game. You're never going to get in a good flow. You're never going to be able to work through your mistakes. He
Mm-hmm.
needs to be in the game. That I wanted him on a team where he could have the ball in his hands a lot and be able to work through his mistakes and learn. If you go 0 for 10, cool, you're going to learn. You're going to learn from that. But going 0 for 5, only playing 16 minutes, sure, you can obviously there's something you can learn, but not much. Every night he has to think, all right, am I even going to play today? I have to play behind Terry and Devontae and Gordon. And I hate the Hornets for that. They're stifling one of the best young talents to come into the NBA in a while.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, and I do 100% agree with you on that, Brad. It's like, with the way that LaMelo plays, with the way that he is, like you basically already have that in most of your guards that you have on the team with Terry Rozier, Graham, you have PJ Washington as well. Gordon Hayward can do that as well. And like LaMelo needs the ball in his hand. And you saw like in the preseason games when he does have it in his hand, when he is the guy that leads the charge, no pun intended. He's a guy that like I think can make a real big difference for a team. But with the way that the Hornets play, with the way that the situation is, it's like it completely stifles his growth. And like you said, he need like especially as the third pick, you need those minutes to grow and develop your game. Like it's no ifs ands or buts. Like LaMelo Ball is gonna have growing pains. I think he's gonna have the same trajectory path as his brother Lonzo did when he first entered the league. Right, though there was big expectations for him, didn't live up to those, but is steadily growing into a very consistent player. I mean, I'm not sure if we'll have time to talk about it, but the Pelicans played a tremendous game, and Lonzo Ball was a tremendous contributor to that. I think he hit 4 threes in the third quarter. And you see that his shot is more conventional now. It looks good. I believe that he's going to have a bounce back season. I mean, he was having already a great season. Now, talk about Lonzo here. Had a great season up until the bubble, and then once he was in the bubble, it completely stifled his growth. And
Mm-hmm.
it kind of led him to kind of falter a little bit. But going back to LaMelo, I believe that he's going to be in that same trajectory. You're going to have a lot of growing pains with him. He's a guy that takes a lot of risks and, high risk, high reward, especially with those passes that he throws. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I think he will be a great player in this league. The question is going to be now for the Hornets, like, if you know that you're going to have a lot of guys ahead of him, why did you draft him?
Exactly. It doesn't, especially at number 3. I remember we did our pre-draft. I was saying they were going to take Oneku Okongwu because they fucking need a center. Their center is Cody Zeller. Their center has been Cody Zeller for the last 8 years. Like, and now he goes out and fractures his hand on opening night. So whoop-de-doo, y'all really need a center now. But instead of Oneku Okongwu out there, who I know is injured right now, but he'd eventually get on the court soon. You have LaMelo just sitting at the end of your bench behind 2, 3 of your other guards. It's really just straight garbage. MJ has no. I can say that 100 times. MJ has no clue what he's doing with that team.
Yeah, I mean MJ, like, for the many years that they've had, a lot of different opportunities to grab players. They had chances to grab like Pascal Siakam, Devin Booker, like so many other like great NBA talents that they've just passed on because they've taken, Michael Kidd Gilchrist, for example, instead of obviously Anthony Davis number 1, then I think Kidd Gilchrist number 2. So that's the kind of the curse of the number 2 pick, even though the Seattle SuperSonics got lucky on theirs. It's just one of those things where it's just like, you need to start looking and be realistic about like, look, Terry Rozier, tremendous player. PJ Washington, tremendous player. Graham, tremendous player. And then it's like, what do you do now with the rest of the team? Like, is it going to be a point where you trade away those guys and try and get assets for him? Because I mean, like, if you drafted LaMelo Ball with their 3rd pick, you're expecting that guy to be a cornerstone piece franchise type of player that will help you win championship or at least help you get into the playoffs. That's kind of what the Hornets need to do first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, like, kind of a weird situation. I feel like for the Hornets right now is like, do you trade away some of these pieces that you do have on your team, or what do you do?
I don't even think. I don't think they even want to trade the pieces because I don't think their goal is to be a good basketball team. I don't. MJ doesn't have a direction for that team because if his goal was to be a good basketball team, he wouldn't have given $120 million to Gordon Hayward. You know, why use up all that cap space for Gordon Hayward?
Yeah.
It's just coming off an injury, and then he goes and gets injured again before opening night. He played, but it's just an indication of things to come. Like how do we know he's going to stay healthy all season, or even for the next 2 years? And he's already 31 or something. It's just I don't think they have any intentions of being a good basketball team. So I don't even know if they trade Terry Rozier, and if they don't trade Terry or Devontae, it's going to be a long season for LaMelo. And in 10 years, we're going to hear about this on a podcast when his dark days on the Hornets.
Exactly. I think that's kind of the worrying part for me is like, are we going to get like LaMelo Ball, who's just going to be like, yeah, I mean, the Hornets experience was probably one of the worst of my life. Like the coach didn't really want to play me. The ownership wasn't really prepared to build a team around me. And they just basically drafted me because of the hype and for jersey sales. And,
Literally.
I'm not gonna lie. I was looking into getting a jersey and I saw that you couldn't even get one. So obviously, like his like the newer ones, like the with the pinstripe, not the
those are fresh. Okay,
yeah, those ones are fresh, but these old school, like all blue and all white jerseys, they just look kind of trash.
They're all purple. The all purple ones were hideous.
I know. It's just like no one wants a LaMelo Ball jersey with that colorway.
Yeah.
Or even any player. But at the end of the day, we'll see what happens with LaMelo Ball. People in the chat, people that are in the comment section, let us know down below what you guys think of the LaMelo Ball situation. Do you think that LaMelo Ball should be asking for a trade? Do you think that he will be traded, or do you think his teammates might get traded? Or what is the future of LaMelo Ball in this league? Let us know in the comment section down below. But Brad, we talked about a lot of games from yesterday. Let's talk about the games for Christmas Day. I know that this is probably the one time of year where basketball reigns supreme. I know that the NFL has a game on this day, but basketball to me just kind of has a Christmas vibe to it. Always has been, always will. Um,
Hmm.
Looking at the games tomorrow, we have Brooklyn and Boston. We got Pelicans and Heat. We got Golden State and Milwaukee. Don't even tune into that one. Um, Dallas and Lakers, and then we have the Clippers and the Nuggets. So obviously the primetime game is that 5 o'clock slot with the Dallas Mavericks and the Lakers. We know that the Lakers lost on opening night. Who do you think wins this game? Both teams are 0-1. Who wins this game and why, Brad?
Lakers landslide. They don't have anyone that can guard AD. Their best bet is probably Dwight Powell. Dwight Powell or Dorian Finney-Smith is their best bet at guarding AD. That's not going to work out too well for them. They don't have if you actually Dwight Powell's their best bet at AD because Dorian Finney-Smith has to guard LeBron. Um, and they're just going to dismantle them. Honestly, our bench is better. Schroeder, Harrell, that pick and roll should dominate them. I know the Lakers are rusty, but I'm looking for this game to be a bounce back game for them, just because they don't really want to go out there and lose on Christmas, especially to the Mavs. I think it'll be an exciting game too. I think Luka will put up his Luka usual numbers because he has the ball in his hands all game,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll kind of just be waiting and watching to see which of his teammates shows up. Maybe Tim Hardaway Jr. scores 15, maybe he scores 30. Josh Richardson maybe he finds his jumper again because he was broke yesterday. Um, but that game's definitely going to the Lakers.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with you there. I think with the Dallas Mavericks, I think even though we kind of made fun of Sajin for this, I mean, I think missing Kristaps is definitely a big thing for them. A guy that can't stay healthy, unfortunately, because I think that he could bring a lot of immense talent to this Mavericks team, stretch the floor out, and maybe not be a defensive answer for AD, but definitely maybe could help at least alleviate some of the pain of guarding him and kind of tit for tat scoring against him. So. I do think that the Lakers are going to win this game. I think they're going to win big. I think it's going to be a 20, I'll say a 15-point game. I think they're going to keep it close by half, and then the Lakers are just going to run away with it because their bench depth is so much better than the Mavericks. But, you know, is there any concern for the Lakers right now? Like as a Lakers fan, are you concerned right now with the way that your team is performing, or do you think that it's just due to rust? Are you guys going to be just as good as you were last year? Like, what's your take on that, Brad?
I'm just ready to fast forward to the playoffs. Honestly, I have no worries. Honestly, we could finish as the eighth seed this season, and I have no worries about our team. We know what we need to do. We're ready for the playoffs. Um,
Mm-hmm.
really, the important thing here isn't winning regular season games; it's keeping everybody healthy for the playoffs.
Right. I mean that's kind of the situation at hand that I'm seeing here with them. Is just like they're a team, and obviously we've seen this with many LeBron James teams stemming from the Miami Heat days when they were winning championships. It's like they basically are just kind of in cruise control until the playoffs, and that's when they turn it up. You've seen it, you see it time and time again with LeBron James. So I don't think you expect anything different from them in that regard. But at the same time, the only thing that concerns me right now is just Marc Gasol. I think Marc Gasol didn't do so hot in his first game. I understand that, he's a little rusty, didn't really do too much, got 5 personal fouls and basically didn't do much after that, 12 minutes in that game. But that's my
Yeah,
only concern, in my opinion. I think that, are we going to get like a Marc Gasol that we got in Toronto, or are we going to get like the Marc Gasol that we got, uh, last or the 2 nights ago when they were playing?
I have. Yeah, with that, I do have one concern for our team. I think Mark will be fine. It's just because he had to match up with Ibaka, who's much more mobile center than he is.
Mm-hmm.
But we really brought on Mark for Jokic, for Embiid, for Gobert, those type of centers. Ibaka
Right.
is really a power forward, so that's why he picked up those 4 or 5 fouls and the early fouls pretty quickly. But the Lakers desperately do need a rim protector because right now our rim protector, our best one is AD. I guess you could say LeBron is one sort of, but he plays on the perimeter a lot. So besides
Mm-hmm.
AD, we definitely need to pick up a rim protector in the before the trade deadline or something, or in the free agent market.
And then what about
I think
Kuzma?
Dwight was a huge help. Oh boy, uh, Kuz struggled, but uh, I guess I like the confidence. I like that he's coming in confident this year. but I do think he should get his minutes cut. Not because he's just horrific, but because Taylor Horton Tucker is so good. I think you can't afford to let this guy just sit on your bench all season when he's come in over and over again and shown you that he deserves minutes. He deserves to have a key role on this team and contribute, and he can show you that he can contribute. So it's really not fair to him to just keep playing Kuz and watching him struggle and struggle when you have Taylor Horton on your bench, who's just as talented, if not more talented.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of my thing with Kuzma is like I like his game. I think he's a good player, but my problem with Kuzma is just like he just does Kuzma like things again and again, and it just doesn't seem like he's I know that LeBron said that he's going to be like the most standout player. That's the guy that's going to really step up this year, but that
Trade
just
value.
like I said, it's trade value. I think with Kuzma, that signing that contract, I think is more so for getting a role playing type of player where the contracts match up and you're able to trade him away. That's my honest opinion. I think that's the reason why um, they got him signed. But I mean, like even if I don't know. I mean, it's a great trade. It's a great deal for the Lakers because worst case scenario, you just trade him away next year. If he doesn't perform to expectations, you just get rid of him. And I'm sure some team will take him. But I'm curious about like the contract situation with him when it pertains to like his after he's done with his third year, like how much money is he going to want or how much money is he going to command? Like, do you think that he's a guy that can command a lot of money?
Kuzma,
Yeah.
uh, well, he did just sign that extension, but I do think in a free agent market, especially next year's, he would have commanded at least like 15 mil because he's 6'9". He's shown he can play defense. He can hit shots. There's not many players like Kuzma out there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, his type is highly sought after all the time. So yeah, I think he would have commanded a lot of money. Obviously not a max contract or even anywhere near that, but a decent contract. And I think the Lakers got him at a bargain. It's a tradable contract, um, and it also makes Kuz happy. He has a place on the team for now, and he gets paid.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a place on the team for now, and I do believe that he will get his minutes reduced because I think you can't deny Horton Tucker's like preseason. You can't deny that when he was in the game, he definitely did a better job. Kuzma kind of got some garbage time minutes, points, I should say. And so like you expect Kuzma to score in the garbage time. The real question I think many Lakers fans are probably kind of asking themselves are, can Kuzma give you those like when it matters? And so far he hasn't. Shoot. Oh, my bad, Brad. If that was so loud.
It's all good.
But we haven't seen that yet from a guy like we haven't seen that from Kyle Kuzma, in a very long time, or even to be honest, ever. Which was like
Yeah,
that consistently, he was looked at to be consistent, like third guy, and then didn't live up to that expectations, and now this year it's like there's not that expectation on him, but there is an expectation from LeBron to be like a more improved player, which I don't know if I necessarily see that, but maybe I'm wrong on that.
yeah. I get the expectation, but yeah, I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen anything concrete from him yet.
Exactly. And Brad, I think that's gonna kind of do it here for the charge. I mean, the other thing is that Silver decided not to suspend Harden because he would have lost a game check. So Harden's very lucky in that aspect. He would have lost like whatever he was getting paid. So he's lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't has to self isolate for today. I know he's testing negative, but obviously they want to be precautious, especially after he got in trouble. Um, like maybe we can talk about this a little bit. What did you make of the whole James Harden situation for like going out, not wearing a mask, like just not following protocol, and then having I would say having the audacity to be mad at like many being mad at the media, being mad at fans for questioning like his decision making.
Yeah. Shoot. I don't want to go too much into it because he's just like Paul George in this regard. I could slander him endlessly, but breaking protocol, I think it was a weak move from the NBA to basically just say, yeah, he can quarantine today, tomorrow, and then play Saturday. That's some A1 bullshit. He definitely should have been suspended. Um, and fuck the game checks. They won't even make a dent in his pocket. If he has an issue with it, don't do stupid shit. excuse the cursing. I'm sorry. I hate James Harden.
It's all good, man. I was the same way. I
Um,
slandered him for 2 or 3 days straight with all the videos I made.
yeah, he's straight trash. He's a bum. This lines up with everything that we've known about him and said about him for the last couple years now. He's a straight bum. I think Adam Silver should have suspended him. If David Stern was still the commissioner, he would have been suspended for a long time.
Yeah, he definitely would. He would have been suspended at least 10 to 15 games because I mean because of his actions. I do, obviously what happened with the Ben McLemore, John Wall, and Boogie Cousins. That's like a different story, and I was obviously they're two completely different things, but it just kind of sets the culture that like you can basically not be precautious, and I think that especially in today's world right now, that's kind of the world that we live in, where we have to be a little bit more precautious than we normally want to be. I know that Texas is more open than many other states that these NBA players play in, but you still have to take the precautions of and follow the NBA's league rule. I mean, they said don't go to the club, don't make sure you wear a mask, socially distance. I mean, stuff that's kind of easy to follow, but these players sometimes just don't want to follow that rule for some
Yeah,
reason. I don't know why, but it just hurts you more. Like luckily. And I think Adam Silver kind of pointed this out. Luckily, it wasn't, luckily they didn't play the game and then found out later that that this situation came out. Like he would have been in huge trouble if that was the case. Um,
yeah,
and I always thought that it was kind of interesting that the NBA didn't investigate it as soon as the pictures leaked, as soon as everything leaked out. They might have had to do their due diligence on that story, but I'm surprised that the NBA never looked at that like strongly when it happened. But
yeah. I mean, I really think that it was crazy that he went on Instagram to try and defend what he did. Like, oh, I was whatever he said, going to congratulate my homegirl, and I wasn't at a strip club.
he
Um,
had to make that point.
yeah, right. I bet you it still was a strip club.
Yeah, I mean,
um,
didn't you tell me about him having like depending on the star rating of the club, he plays a
yeah.
lot better.
One day we should like link that or something for people to see, like in the comment section, because there's literally a whole Reddit thread that it is a statistical fact James Harden will play bad if he plays in Miami or something. Like, or he'll not bad by his standards. Which like a lot worse. Like there's nights where he plays at MVP level, and then if he's in Miami, he's gonna play just drastically different because he's partied the night before.
Exactly. And then we got Tyrese in the chat. How you doing, Tyrese? James Harden, Celtics new destination. Should we pull the trigger? Absolutely not.
I just got that alert, and Blazers too.
No,
I would
no.
love to see him on
Oh my goodness. Could you imagine the defense?
the Blazers.
Oh my god, that'd be even more Swiss cheese. Like, let's say like they trade away CJ McCollum and like a bunch of those role players. Can you imagine a team of Dame, Harden, and Ennis Cantor just like absolutely getting cooked on defense? You might as well just like have those players kind of go cherry pick on the other side of the court. You'll have a better chance of winning the
Exactly.
game that way.
For real.
But speaking of the Celtics, they definitely should not pull the trigger on this. Like I said, I like my young core. I think that you just don't have like I think we're still in that. I want to say we're kind of over the oven bake process, which I dubbed it as. Like we're right now in like critical mode where we're trying to resuscitate this freaking cake or whatever we're cooking in the oven right now because we need to whatchamacallit. We need to just like we need to start making drastic moves to save this thing because right now we're pissing off a lot of customers, including myself, with the way that we're playing. Would you trade away Kemba Smart and Langford? Like that's just not going to get enough for James Harden. They're going to want a lot more than that. Um, they're going to want basically who just
Like
got recently
Jalen
traded.
Brown. They're gonna ask for Jalen Brown for sure.
Yeah, they're gonna ask for Brown. They're probably gonna ask for Robert Williams. They're gonna ask for probably gonna ask for Marcus Smart. Honestly, either Marcus Smart or Kemba Walker, and then like one of our other bums on the team. Um, and that's kind of going to be the team that we get rid of. And it's like, if we get rid of that, like, yeah, James Harden offensively is going to give us everything that we need, but defensively, we're going to be a liability. And if I know Brad Stevens, defense is one of his main shticks. Like, he is a very defensive minded coach and does not want to give up a lot of those defensive players. Like Jalen Brown's probably one of our better defenders, along with Marcus Smart. And so, like, why would we want to give that up for a guy that doesn't play defense? Offensively can give us everything, but like you said, there's two sides to the ball. Defense matters a lot, especially as it comes to crunch time. And we saw last year, we were a defensive liability at our point guard spot. Like, we you don't want to get rid of another liability, and we have to play like a lineup of like Kemba, Harden, and Tatum when there's like no defense there at all.
Exactly. That would be terrible. But wait, I just saw something funny to this James Harden news.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, Portland is home to the most strip clubs per capita in the U.S. That's why the Blazers are on his list.
No wonder. No wonder he has the team on the list. I mean,
Because they're not contenders. Like, why?
oh man, like I'm gonna have to look up this Reddit thread at some point and kind of share it with you guys because this actually is kind of a crazy story. Tyrese, you said Kemba and Smart and 2 first-rounder gets it done. I think no. I think I think Ben Simmons is worth more than what we could give them. Like if we did go for James Harden, and plus like with James Harden, like I said, like defensively, not the type like the culture wise and defensively wise, like I just don't think James Harden is someone that I think fits the Boston mold. Um, I think Boston has a little bit more. They need like more, I would say, more traditional type of players. Like I think a Jimmy Butler would have been a perfect matchup for us. I think a lot of these type of players would have been a lot better to get, but we ended up, kind of crap in the bed, so to speak, with Danny Ainge just like absolutely god awful at the realm or at the helm with at the driving seat because like he just doesn't know what to do. And I hope that Danny Ainge retires this year because it's absolutely god awful.
They're gonna force him to. Actually, knowing Boston, they won't. But you can only hope so.
I hope so, man. And Tyrese, you said I have a strong feeling we're going to trade for him. This is gonna be the one time where like I don't want the superstar. I don't because I already know like what's he about. Like the one season where I was like James Harden is probably one of the best players in the world was the season where he won the MVP because he realized he was like, man, I got screwed over, and actually worked out during the off season, got into great shape, played tremendous great basketball. And then won his MVP. And as soon as he won his MVP, he went back to like James Harden not really working out during the summer, not really working out during any type of the day, and having to work back into shape starting from the start of the season. So I mean, Brad, am I wrong on that? Am I too harsh?
No, you're definitely right. He's never in shape. He even looks terribly out of shape right now.
I mean, there's some photos released of him where I'm just like, dang, man, like what happened? Like you ate skinny Harden. Like there was James Harden like a year ago, like before like the start of the bubble, he was like skinny Harden, and then all of a sudden we see James Harden just gain like 30 to 40 pounds almost.
Mm-hmm. Those
And
pictures had to be photoshopped.
I hope so. I hope for his sake they're photoshopped, because that is
Yeah,
just not a good look. But then Tyrese also goes to say, I don't want him either, but I have a feeling Danny Ainge knows he's on thin ice as a GM. Danny,
that's
I mean,
true. I mean, but is he going to give up Jalen Brown for that? I feel like that would just cement his firing because you're not going to be a better team with James Harden.
exactly. Like with James Harden, like when you add him to the team, or like what's he really? What value does James Harden add to the Boston Celtics right now? If we get rid of a guy like Jalen Brown, Marcus Smart, or Kemba Walker, or any of these other players that we have on our team that aren't like tremendous role players. Like we have to give up Robert Williams. We have to give up so many draft picks as well. It's just like it's going to be a similar situation to what happened with the Denver Nuggets and the New York Knicks when Carmelo Anthony was traded. We're gonna be. I don't want to be the New York Knicks. Like the Knicks, I've already shown that they have yet to recover from that situation. So it's just one of those things where I don't want that to happen to us. I don't want a situation where we have to trade away like a guy like Jalen Brown or any of these young superstars or any of our draft picks really, that could help us win a championship or help us, at least get to the game. And I just don't think that we should be trading for Harden. Like if there was a superstar like Anthony Davis when he was a free agent, or sorry, not free agent, but when he was in the trade rumors, that's a guy I would have traded for. Even if he wouldn't have stayed the whole year, that's a guy that I would have traded for because he is he's a bigger player, he's stronger, and is like a more dynamic threat than I would say James Harden, who defensively just can't do that.
Mm-hmm, exactly. AD affects the game on both ends, which leads to winning. Harden is just going to ball hog, put up his stats, and he's not going to lead to winning. If you have to give up Jaylen Brown for him and Marcus Smart, you're hurting your team more than you're helping it.
Exactly. Like, and again, I don't want that for our team. I don't think that that's necessarily the best fit for us is to get a guy like James Harden, who defensively is a liability, and also like culture wise, like, when the going gets tough, are we going to get a pouty James Harden? Like, I don't want that for the team. Brad Stevens, he hasn't dealt with a super, well, yeah, maybe a little bit with Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, and Marcus Morris and Gordon Hayward, and yeah.
Exactly. And then Tyrese, you said James Harden, Brown, Tatum would be fire. I don't think so, because I think that we're gonna see the emergence of Jaylen Brown. I think this year.
That's true. He balled out last night. He looks, although he loves playing the Bucks for some reason. I think it's just one of those teams that he understands he can cook because he's so strong and he's so fast. He uses his athleticism against them, but he has much more trouble against more technical teams like the Sixers or something.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it will be an interesting situation to see where James Harden goes. He's added more teams to his list. Pretty soon, the whole NBA team and the whole NBA will be on that list.
I think the Blazers do it.
You think the Blazers should do it? Or who do you think, or like if you were the one of these teams, like if you were the Blazers or the Philadelphia 76ers, which team should do it?
Ooh. Well, I'm gonna say keep him away from my Sixers. If Ben Simmons is bad as the season progresses, and the Sixers are bad, which they looked like yesterday, they actually looked horrific, even though they won. Then, but I put that on Tobias Harris, not on Ben Simmons. But then I would trade for James Harden just because he has a different dynamic, and him and Joel Embiid could be good together. But even then, you're still losing out on Defensive Player of the Year, Ben Simmons, and that's not like caliber. He's that caliber, and that's not what you want. But the Blazers, they already believe that offense is the way to go. So I could totally see them sending like CJ and Rocco back to Houston or something. A couple picks. I could definitely see that to get James Harden, just pair him with Dame and have the best, quote unquote, best backcourt in the league, and try and run with that and lose in the second round or first round again.
Exactly. I mean, we'll see what happens, man. I think that the Blazers are probably well, I think the 76ers should, because like I'm not a big believer in Ben Simmons. You know this, Brad. That's kind of my shtick on
He
here.
played good last night.
He played all right last night. I think I think especially that situation where I think Russell Westbrook like basically tried to gamble on defense and try to get a steal. Ben Simmons basically in his usual spot. Like the one time where it actually works, where Ben Simmons is in the low post, on the low block, and actually gets a finish around the basket. It's just, and you got Danny Green as well, who just absolutely just is continuing his bubble ways.
The brick tour.
The brick tour, it just can, he's just trying to build houses for Habitats for Humanity, man, with all the bricks. So, I appreciate that for Danny Green. Ben Simmons, 2 of 6 from the free throw line, definitely not going to cut it. Like, Ben Simmons is a good player. I don't doubt like his ability, but man, it is just tough when you don't shoot a 3. Like, I know Joel Embiid didn't shoot many last night, I think, or 2 nights, or no, last night. He only shot, I believe, 1. But with Ben Simmons not being able to stretch the floor, basically most of his buckets coming from like basically attacking the lane. Got 16 points, not a bad. But when you have Ben Simmons, who was the number 1 overall pick, like you expect, and he was expected to be like a LeBron James, even Magic Johnson-esque. I think you trade him away for James Harden.
I mean, I guess, but then I feel like you're just losing out on so much defense, and I already feel like they've lost out on a lot of defense because Doc isn't playing Matisse Thybulle for God knows what reason. And you have Seth out there, you have Tobias out there, who are both food. Shake Milton, who is food, but somehow had a plus 33 yesterday. That's crazy.
Yeah, I hope Thybulle gets to play, man. I think he's a good player. I don't understand what Doc doesn't see in him.
I think it's the offense, but it's like you need to give him a chance to put up those shots if you want him. Like you can only practice in the gym so much. You got to give him a chance to put up those shots in game. You're giving that chance to Danny Green. Why not give it to Thybulle?
Yeah, and like Korkmaz is getting like a lot of minutes. He got 20
Yeah,
minutes and put up like 4 of 9, 3 for 6 from 3 point land. So it's like you're gonna give a guy like Korkmaz a chance, but not a guy like Thibault or even like Maxi. Like I know Maxi
yeah.
is, I think he'll be a good player, but you know, especially to a rookie compared to Thibault, like I don't know, man. I don't believe that in that
So
type of
yeah,
philosophy.
exactly. Yeah, I think that's pretty messed up. If anyone's minutes here need to get cut, it's Tobias Harris. He shouldn't be playing 31 minutes. He's an absolute liability on offense and on defense. But Doc likes him because he played with him on the Clippers, and Thibault
Hmm.
is paying that expense. We'll see Thibault on a podcast talking about this too in like 10 years.
Yeah, I hope so, man, because I think Thibault could actually be a contributor. I would love to see him get traded to a
For
different
sure.
team because
For
man,
sure.
like he has so
Philly
much
is a hell.
talent, man. So much
Yeah.
talent.
He could be a superstar wing defender, and once his offensive game fills out, the sky's the limit.
Exactly. And then Tyrese said, I think they want to get rid of Kemba after seeing Teague last night, and salaries would match almost with Harden. You could get a first team all defensive player and Smart. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Do you want to take this, Brad?
I don't. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't think the Rockets would take Kemba just because um, we saw how he was a liability last year in the playoffs. He's injury prone.
Hmm.
They're not going to give up that asset of Harden, who you can get literally a treasure chest for injury prone midget Kemba. Um, uh, uh, it's yeah, it's not going to work like that. And then you'd have to give up Smart. You would lose out on Smart's defense, and he was
Hmm.
first team all defense. It's not worth it for the Celtics, and it's not worth it for the Rockets either because Marcus Smart is the better player in that trade.
Yeah, exactly. And we've seen the 76ers, including Ben Simmons. I think you could get CJ McCollum from the Blazers. So I just think whatever package the Celtics have to offer, like you have to put in Jalen Brown, which to me is a
Yeah,
non-negotiable. I would not put him in there for a guy like James Harden, who, like I said, a great player, but defensively is just not what we need. And I think that Brad Stevens would actually, it would cause Brad Stevens more headaches. Like obviously offensively, Brad Stevens is going to have a fun time with that, but defensively, it's just going to be a huge liability. And I just don't see that that's kind of the way that they need to go.
exactly.
But other than that, Brad, is there anything you kind of want to talk about, or do you think we should kind of wrap it up?
Now let's wrap it up, Dan. I'm
All right.
excited for these Christmas games tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. There is a lot of exciting games. If you are a basketball fan, this is what you live for. This is what you breathe for. Christmas Day games. With LeBron James obviously being part of it. This is gonna be a fun time. We're gonna see great matchups, like I said, between the Dallas Mavericks and the LA Lakers. We also have, of course, some interesting more games. You got the Pelicans and the Heat. A not so interesting game in the Bucks and the Warriors. I think that one's gonna be a blowout.
Gross.
Um, and then
Celtics Nets should be good.
Celtics Nets, and then you of course have Clippers and the Nuggets.
Mm.
Um, so anyway, guys, that is gonna do it here. Brad, do you have anything to shout out? Your Twitter? Do you want to shout out your Twitter handle so people can follow you on there?
Yeah, shout out my Twitter handle, Quasele12. That's Kwesele12. I'm
Yeah,
always tweeting during these games. Fuck with me. My tweets are funny. At least I think so.
yeah. I think you guys should follow Brad for definitely because his tweets are very insightful. I think that he probably, as much as he jokes around, he does spit the honest truth about the game. So make sure you follow him. That is at Quaseli12, right?
Sure.
Yeah, so Corselli12, follow him on Twitter, follow him on the social media aspect because, like I said, very insightful, a guy that spits the truth, in my opinion. But other than that, Brad, do you have anything kind of the last minute thing to say to the Charge community?
Merry Christmas, y'all. Enjoy the time with your families. That's all I got.
All righty, guys, you heard the man. Merry Christmas Eve to everybody. Merry Christmas to everybody. If you guys are watching it later on, we will be live for the Lakers Mavericks game, or at least I will be. I'll be live for that game, kind of commentating on it, kind of watching it, seeing what sets are going to be ran, seeing how the Lakers will bounce back, how the Mavericks will bounce back in that game because it will be a fun and interesting watch. But anyway, guys, like I said, my name is Bernie. Also, along with my boy Brad. Giving you the latest NBA news and rumors and also basketball opinions. Of course, today was more basketball opinions. And Ishmael, I'm sorry that I'm going to get to your comments. Just the Suns, man, 3 All-Stars on that team. Yes, we did talk about that in the podcast. So if you want to rewind a little bit, we talked about that, I believe, as the first or second game in our very, very long podcast, almost 2 hours here. Geez. Really appreciate everybody that tuned in today. Really appreciate the 4 viewers that were still in here. But if you guys want to leave comments in the comment section, leave stuff in the live chat, kind of do that as well. But like we all said, Merry Christmas to everybody, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Peace, guys.